Whether you're flying a Cessna or a jet, drag is the enemy. It's that invisible force that opposes lift and makes your plane a lot less fuel efficient. In the next few minutes, you will definitely understand the two different types of drags, how to reduce drag, and also we'll be going over the relationship between airspeed and drag. Before we dive into the two types of drag, what is drag in general? Drag is the aerodynamic force that resists the motion of the airplane through air. You can almost think of it like trying to run through water. That water is obviously going to resist your body from running through it fastly and efficiently. In the same way, air is actually a fluid and it will cause some resistance to the motion that the airplane is trying to go in. So there's two main types. The first kind is parasite drag, which is kind of the bad drag that you can't really get rid of. All it does really is slow you down. And then we also have induced drag, which is kind of like a necessary evil that comes with lift. So let's break them both down, starting with parasite drag, the unwanted drag. Parasite drag is exactly what it sounds like. It's a parasite. It does absolutely nothing to help you fly. It just slows you down. It consists of the accumulated drag of the airplane that is not associated to lift. So that's all the parts put together that are causing drag on the aircraft, including the fuselage, which is the body, and maybe the landing gear. Things that do not produce lift, but are causing drag. So there's three different types of parasite drag. And the first one that we'll go over is form drag. Now, form drag is simply the form of the body parts like we just kind of went over. So if you're looking at something like a Cessna that doesn't have retractable landing gear, that landing gear and that bulky body is going to slow you down and produce more drag than, let's say, a fighter jet. The second type of parasite drag is skin friction. Even though a plane looks very smooth, air has a tendency of kind of clinging to surfaces, especially ones in motion. So that causes more resistance. So having any dirt on the airplane or even a buildup of ice can actually produce a lot of drag, which is not what you want at all. It's no different than playing with a super dirty golf ball. The ball is simply not going to go as far with the same amount of power. Now, the third type of parasite drag is interference drag. And this is where the air kind of gets messy. For example, where the wing meets the body of the plane, it's not easy to make a very streamlined design for that. So the wind hitting it in different directions is going to cause the air to get a little bit messy and therefore cause more resistance or more drag. Okay, so now that we know the three different types, let's try to think of some ways to prevent drag. So an example of reducing form drag would be retractable landing gear, and you retracting that landing gear as early as possible. You can also decrease the amount of form drag by a really streamlined design that is done by the engineers. Now, to reduce skin friction drag, what you can do is go around the airplane before you take off and just make sure there's no buildup of ice or dirt, and making sure you do the necessary things to remove those annoying parasitic drag components. So clean the dirt and remove the ice with some type of de-icing spray. And to reduce interference drag, it can only really be done in the engineering phase and the design phase of the airplane. And you'd simply do that by streamlining the parts that connect to each other. Now let's talk about induced drag, which is the cost of lift. Nothing in life is free. Even your flight training, you're gaining knowledge and experience, but that comes at a cost out of your finances. Somewhat similarly, the price of obtaining lift is that there will be a little bit of drag associated with that. So the cost of lift is a bit of drag, and the drag that's involved with any parts of the airplane that are associated with lift is called induced drag. So when is induced drag the worst? Is it at slow speeds or high speeds? Well, it's actually at slow speeds because your angle of attack has to be increased. And when the angle of attack is increased, there are more wingtip vortices that cause an immense amount of drag. And to dive a little bit deeper, if you're looking at the wings, for example, the airfoils, air is blowing over the top of the wing backwards and inwards, whereas on the bottom, it's going backwards and outwards. When those outward and inward airflows meet, they're going in opposite directions, so they don't really like each other, and they tend to meet up at the wing tip, causing a lot of eddies or vortices, which produces quite a bit of drag. These vortices can be reduced by adding wing tips or winglets or things of that nature. So what are three ways we can reduce induced drag? Well, number one is we can go faster. Number two is what we just went over, which was the fact that you can add winglets to the wingtips, which reduce the vortices. And number 3, keep your angle of attack low. Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of parasite drag and induced drag, let's look at a graph that displays the relationship between drag and airspeed. And it's pretty interesting because induced drag and parasite drag actually react very differently to airspeed. So if you look at the graph here, you can see that as airspeed increases, parasite drag increases as well, but induced drag decreases. And then somewhere somewhat in the middle there, you'll notice we have kind of a sweet spot. And this is where the airplane is most fuel efficient and the total amount of drag of the airplane is at a minimum. This is optimal for both fuel efficiency and performance. So if you're flying too slow, you're wasting energy fighting induced drag. If you're flying too fast, you're burning fuel battling parasite drag. Flying at the lowest drag point, boom, you're flying most efficiently. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you want more aerodynamic videos, I have lots on my channel. And please, if you enjoy this, hit the like button and maybe consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, guys. This was Steve with The Wired Flyer. Keep learning, stay motivated, and go chase your dreams. Let's go.